Welcome to Magus and the Media, where we do it live today on this fantastic Friday, November 7th, in the world of the strange. So, this is what we're going to be covering on this fine Friday. We're going to be going through some of the weirder aspects of today's world. We're going to talk about a little thing that's happening that's going to change the very fabric of our reality and our existence in our everyday life. And that is Tesla robots. Strangely enough, Elon is coming to save the day. Or is he? Hello, Kaiva Rose. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. If anyone's out there, and as we are listening and picking up more listeners for this day, let's just remember, if you have something to say, please say it. Let's do this community together. It's so beautiful. But Tesla robots are coming on live, not with us right now, but into the world. And is Philip K. Dick honestly foretelling the future? No one knows, but we will soon find out. As well as that, anime is crushing the modern day world, this postmodern world, actually. They are taking the world by storm, and, well, it seems like it'll never go back as long as these artists in Japan and South Korea and China are continually to write great stories as Hollywood continues to decline. I do want to start off with this thing that keeps popping up on my Instagram, something I heard a long time ago, but didn't quite understand. And that's from the prophet and visionary and madman, Terrence McKenna. Terence McKenna was somebody who was quite life-changing at the beginning of my journey. I think many people take Terence McKenna as one of their life-changing pivotal gurus, as we all find ourselves having when we first start our journey. And then we realize that these aren't gurus at all. Hello, Dusty Wild Sea. Thank you for joining us today. It's the idea, as Robert Anton Wilson said, he said, gurus are like assholes. Everyone's got them. But the idea is you don't want them to lead the journey. That's why it's on the back of the bus. I added that little paraphrase myself, but you understand what I mean. It's that gurus come and they go. You shouldn't actually have one, because you should become your own master, become your own guru, and not a guru for somebody else, but understand that you have this higher divine self out there that can help you navigate the world of the strange. But as we do it live, I do want to open it up with Terence McKenna and his thoughts on the world. And I think before we get into the Tesla robots and the different things that are going on in the world today, I think this is a really nice beginning to the stream for this midday hour. Let's see if I can figure out how to do it live. And I'm going to share my screen here as the great man speaks to us. Here we go.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. So between now and 2012, the next 14 years, I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The fact that there is no such thing as the Soviet Union, people never talk about it anymore. But when I was a kid, the notion that that would ever change was beyond conceiving. So the good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable to change. Put us in a desert, we survive. Put us in the jungle, we survive. Under Hitler, we survive. Under Nixon, we survive. We can put up with about anything, and it's a good thing because we're going to be tested to the limits. The breakdown of anything, and this is why the right wing is so alarmed, because what they see going on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order, all sanctioned norms of behavior. And they're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet.
Every living organism on this planet. This is what it's like when a civilization, a humanity, and a planet departs for the stars. Isn't it quite interesting how he said that? He's a prophet and a visionary, but he's kind of a madman, and so not all his theories came true, as we say. As we know, it's actually, we don't quite know. He had this 2012 novelty, time wave zero type of ideals that everything would be changing since 2012, and some say it has. To have that conversation many times over and over with many people, that who knows, maybe 2012 was that pivotal moment and we all died since then. It's really easy to take on his cadence after you listen to him talk. It's like, who knows? Truly, we don't know, because consciousness is something that is like a gossamer's web. It's very ephemeral, like ethereal, ephemeral. Like, it's very unknown. We don't know anything about it, which is quite interesting. We think we do. The more we don't know about it is more than what we do know about it. And so what would have happened if, say, like in a Philip K. Dick style of world, that we all actually died at that time? Isn't it interesting? It's one of those things. It's like we don't know. How many times has as a collective civilization, our memories been wiped? Would you know? Like the Men in Black come down and they have the little machine and they put it in front of your face, then they click the button and the button says, no more memory for you. Interesting enough. Now let's rewrite that memory because we have plans for what's going on. And you guys were awakening too fast. We have to slow down. We're not ready to leave the planet yet. But to go back to what he was saying, it's like almost every single one of the lines that he said is exactly what's going on in our world. AI is coming to singularity very soon, and it may already have come to singularity. Interesting enough, don't we know, right? As I can't not remember her name, but she talks about how she was on Rogan and she's written many different books. I don't have them next to me right now, but she talked about how DARPA, the Defense Department, and the Black Ops departments are at least 30 years ahead of what we have in technology currently right now. It's one of those things. Here, let me figure it out. Again, we're doing it live. She wrote many books on, say, Operation Paperclip. Annie Jacobson. Annie Jacobson is quite brilliant, and I do highly recommend everybody going and checking out her work. She wrote The Pentagon's Brain, which is a brilliant book. We're going to figure out if I can throw it up on screen, and that kind of helps people understand really what's going on in the world, is that there's so much nonsense that the Black Ops department, and some say they're doing it for our own good. So here we are, The Pentagon's Brain, an uncensored history of DARPA, America's top secret military research agency. Discover the definitive the definitive history of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and this Pulitzer Prize finalist from author of the New York Times bestselling Area 51, Operation Paperclip, and all the different ones. She said, and here it states, no one has ever written the history of the Defense Department, most secret, most powerful, and most controversial military science and R&D agency, the first ever history about the organization. The Pentagon's brain from its Cold War inception to 1958 to the present. So there is information out there that we can all gather. And what I'm talking about when I speak of that we're 30 to 50 years ahead is that obviously these cell phones that we have, they, as in the Defense Department, already had these years ago. Virtual reality was already a thing in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. It's just, it wasn't for you and me. And so the screens and, people were like, no, these microchips were so small, or these microchips were so huge, it filled up whole rooms. Well, yeah, so it was, but that's what you know. So it's one of those interesting things. Thank you, Devlin, for your wonderful comment. The stream is live. Devlin states, I absolutely love the interview of Terence McKenna. I've seen it several times, and it's so spot on about how absurd modern day is. Have a diamond day, my friends. The stream is live. We're doing it live. And then thank you, Swimmer, 307. Yo and yo ho to you too. So this is what I'm talking about. I think that was a great start to our stream here, and why Terence McKenna, we could call him a prophet, so to speak, or he's a science fiction author, or he's a man who just took too much mushrooms, who went down into the jungle and maybe came back a different person. Maybe he was, as some of the conspiracy theorists want to state, he was an agent of the CIA, he's an agent of the Illuminati, somebody who's trying to push the drug culture upon the mainstream. Well, if he's trying to do that, one of his main things he was saying is culture is not your friend. And it's very true. Culture, it's not that it's not our friend, it's just that it's kind of like the backstabbing friend at times. The friend who acts like your friend, and then as soon as it can, it turns itself and tries to manipulate you into doing what they want as in culture, right? And so it's such an interesting prospect that, as he's talking about, as time moves forward, it moves faster and faster like a spiral, and novelty increases. And we can see that with such things such as TikTok, right? And X and Instagram. But TikTok, I think, is the greatest example of what he's talking about, novelty. You can get everything as you scroll day to day. It's mostly nonsense, but every once in a while there's that, as they say in Aladdin, the diamond in the rough. And it's that diamond that we're trying to pull out of this noise, this chaos in our everyday world. It's that there are beautiful things out there. The secret teachings of all ages, as Manly P. Hall would state, it's at our fingertips. Every ritual of these secret societies is out there. But the problem and the beauty of it is that if you don't have the right understanding, the right study, the right research, if you don't do the practices, if you don't continue to try to burn away the dead ash and try to coagulate et solve yourself, if you don't try to build yourself up, then what happens is it's all for naught, and you think you're an adept when you're really just a muggle. And it's one of those things that I'd say that it's not your fault, but it is, because your free will and then your determinism, these two are constantly clashing. But as Heraclitus says, that tension between opposites, that war that we feel with ourselves at a daily basis, is actually what's really important and the basis of nature of human beings. Heraclitus, the pre-Socratic philosopher. Him and Parmenides came and clashed at their own time frame. Parmenides thought that all things, nothing changes, and that is the substrate of reality itself, of philosophy, that it's the monad. And Heraclitus states that all things is change, right? You can never step in the same river twice. And then Philip K. Dick comes along and states that actually, maybe it's both these things, that Heraclitus and Parmenides were correct in their assessments, that maybe they didn't have the words for it. And the word that he then came up with, and he didn't obviously come up with this, he was booming at the age of, actually, he wasn't booming, he wasn't very rich, but he would be today because his movies are being, and his ideas are being stolen left and right. But the idea of the hologram, you have something that is a constant and you have something that is a variable. You have the unchanging and the changed, and they need each other to produce this reality that we're in. And in Philip K. Dick's mind, as we continue to stream forth into what I'm going to talk about further here with Tesla robots, is that before we get to the Tesla robots and AI, we must understand that the adeptship, the magic, and the mythology and the mysticism that is much needed is that it doesn't matter how much novelty is spewed in reality. It's that we need to do the practices and become embodied, which is why in Magus and in the media, what we're doing here is I'm trying to show you in these stories the mythological archetypes that are spewing forth. And if you have the eyes to see, you can pick them out, and then you can use them for your own experiences and try to understand what that means. It helps with the psychological processing of our everyday experiences as well as our dream world. And with the mythological aspects of our everyday life, we have the ability to decode and process these things so we can again alchemize our unconscious and conscious life so that we don't have cognitive dissonances. I was listening to McKenna's Hermetic Traditions, his talks, where he was talking about, and again, it's a beautiful thing. It's right on Spotify. You can just go click on it. It comes free with Spotify, and this is not a paid advertisement. So you can just go to it, and it's like Audible, and you can listen to these things, or you can just go to YouTube. It's right there as well. But the idea is that we as humans don't have the ability, and I actually put it up on X the other day, we don't have the correct ability to understand the unknown. So the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, what it does is that it kind of colors over the things that we don't quite understand. And those things that we don't quite understand, like say it's like 1000 AD and we see some strange thing in the night sky and it's coming down upon us, these strange lights or this unknown thing that I may not quite have the language for. What ends up happening is that all of a sudden we have this experience, and when the cognitive dissonance comes around, and what we have to do is we have to understand it in some way. And so in that time frame, you would understand that unknown experience as, say, Mother Mary coming down and blessing you, right? And then all of a sudden, if you're in another time frame, it's the fairies or the puka, if you're in Ireland in that time frame, or the fae creatures, or and the little green men, as they say in the early 1900s, because Robert Anton Wilson talked about how the little green men idea came from actually Bugs Bunny cartoon. And so then after that, that's what people's experiences were, interesting enough. But today, what do we see? Today we see... we don't know what is real because AI and deep fakes and these different things are everywhere. So we have to question reality in this strange world. B, we have to try to understand maybe we're being manipulated. And C, we have to understand maybe it's real. And so we don't really, these different models of experience are covering over our eyes, and the cognitive dissonance is enhanced. But in the modern technological age, what do we see? We see flying saucers, these orbs of light, or these disc-like shapes that are actually maybe drones. Interesting enough, a year ago, it's already been memory hold. All these drones were flying above Pennsylvania and DC and all over America. Does anybody out there, is this thing on? Does anybody out there know what those are? No? The government just said, oh, it's just something. It's okay. Go back to sleep, America. Thank you, Bill Hicks. Go back to sleep, America. Go back to sleep. Counting bodies like sheep, right? To the rhythm of the war drums, A Perfect Circle sings. So as we move forth, now what do we have? We have Elon Musk, the savior of the universe, the man who wants to move us to the moon or Mars. It's Mars, actually. And But we're going back to the moon, they say. Going back to the moon. Isn't that interesting? We're going back to the moon. Were we ever actually there? Let's look up that. We're going to the moon, even though we lost the ability to go to the moon. And yet we're going back to it. So when did they get the ability to go back to the moon? Here it is, doing it live, BBC, as of September 24, 2025. Meet the history-making astronauts headed for the moon. Interesting enough, the commander of NASA's next mission to the moon said that he and his crew would see things that no human has ever seen. Let's make that a little bit bigger so everybody else can see it. What does that mean? What does it mean to see things that no human has ever seen? Have we not been to the moon before? No? But now they're going to see things that no one else has ever seen? Reed Weissman told news conference that he was likely that his spacecraft would fly over large areas of the moon that previous Apollo mission had never mapped. Interesting enough. Is that all? Yesterday, which was a month ago or whatever, they launched the first crewed mission, and NASA announced that they would launch this mission as early as February 2026. Believe it or not, human eyes are one of the best scientific instruments that we have. Wow, are they? What does that mimic? That the human eyes are the best instrument that we have. That mimics the Hermetic traditions. Something that scientists don't really want to talk about is these Hermetic traditions, even though they use it. And that is coming from NASA and that astronaut, the lead guy, I think, right? What's the Hermetic tradition state? Well, their science states that not only do we use instruments like, Bunsen burners and microscopes and computers now and all the different instruments of science, but the problem with those are the human nervous system. So to go back to what Terence McKenna was talking about in that is in the little thing that I was talking about just a little bit ago is cognitive dissonance, is that it's not like we're seeing what is really there, but what we're seeing is our expectations of something that should be there. And so it's our expectations that cover over reality as such. Interesting enough. But if we have the ability to process life experiences and practices through that magical, esoteric, occult, meditate, ritual, and journaling, do these things, working out, becoming an embodied person, then we can understand the models of reality that we're experiencing. And in those models of reality, we have the ability to see the closer truth. Disclosure, a Greek term called aletheia, which also means truth, but it's that when you, as Heidegger puts it, you bring something that is in a clearing, you bring it into something's in the forest and you can't see it because it's dark, right? So you bring it into a clearing where the sun can shine on it, and all of a sudden it discloses itself to you. And that's what the Hermetic tradition is trying to teach. That's what Heidegger's trying to talk about when he's speaking about things through the phenomenological lens, where we have to do the epoche, we have to bracket off our normal everyday experience and we put it to the side. And in doing so, we can get to the phenomenological experience of this first-person experience without all the jargon and the nonsense. And then as we fine-tune the nervous system through magic and mysticism, right? Through meditation and ritual, through embodied practice, we have the ability to see the objective truth closer to us. It becomes clearer. So the cognitive dissonance doesn't overcome us and overlook what we're doing. Where all of a sudden we're not confused and we don't have the mainstream media or the government or anything like that trying to tell us what to think, how to think, and when to think it. And then you don't become, but what happens is you become broken free from the matrix just a little bit. But the breaking free from the matrix isn't an all or nothing thing. You have to continually practice. That's what it's like to take on a myth and understand that myth and create meaning in your world. And so the human eyes, they weren't completely right? Let's go back to that. How NASA, interesting enough, is shut down right now, right? What's Three-Eye Atlas, who knows? Because NASA's shut down. And unless you have a huge telescope, like the Lucifer telescope, right? Interesting. I wonder why. The light bringer. Or any massive telescope that they have, you can't really see it. But you can, because supposedly right now it's between Spica and another star that I can't think of off the top of my head. My girlfriend would know. So if she's listening, she should comment on that. But it doesn't matter. That you can see it early in the morning with a telescope. But what happens in our world? What's happening in our world is that everyone's looking at the lights of their phone, but not the lights of the sky. And it's the lights of the sky that are going to help us understand our place in the world. Interesting enough. But back to the Hermetic tradition is if we have the ability to cleanse our nervous system, have these practices, and then our eyes can actually be the fine-tuned machine that takes in perceptual things. Spica, thank you. Thank you, Kaiva. But it's also between another planet, and I just don't remember what that other planet was. Oh, and Venus. Thank you. See? Go to Kaiva Rose. She's a brilliant astrologer out there in the world. She's one of the best classically trained astrologers and tarot readers. Highly recommend her work. She's life-changing. But the idea is that what you're supposed to do is in fine-tuning your eyes and your nervous system, that is getting away from normal allopathic hospital medicine. That's getting away from modern scientific enlightenment theory of the subject and the object. And we start to understand that the subject and the object are just models of reality, that we need to blend those two as in merge them, and we get an embodied experience. And that's what Heidegger called and Husserl called the phenomenological experience. And then we can understand our place in the experiential world. Then NASA can actually do what they're meant to do and not just take on certain models as reality as such, which we can never truly reach, because that would mean that you don't have skin and a nervous system to interpret those signals, because our eyes obviously can only see the visual light spectrum, and our bodies can only take on the sense, touch, perception that we have. And so if we are trying to understand what reality is, we must first understand the models and maps that we are taking in. Getting pretty heady. This is the news for the day. So NASA's going to the moon. Is it their first time? Is it the second time? Is it the third time? Or are we already on it? I don't know. These are the questions we must ask. We don't truly know where we're at. Terrence McKenna is trying to tell us. Philip K. Dick is trying to tell us these things and trying to tell us to question your reality as we move on in the news today. As we move on into the news today, what I'm going to move on towards is that Elon, who's trying to save the world, or is he? Here we are. Let's make it big. We're going to listen to what they got to say. So, whoever Doge designer, thank you for putting this out here to us. What I have here, Elon Musk on Optimus, his new robots. Interesting enough, what is Optimus? Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime. Do you all know Optimus Prime of the Transformers? I think it's really important to understand why they're using these terms. Optimus, optimal, it's the optimum. Optimus Prime, the leader of the Transformers. What do they got to say for us? Quote, the robots are just walking around the office 24/7 with no one minding them, and then they go charge themselves. It's going to be the biggest production of all time, bigger than all cell phones, bigger than anything. There could be tens of billions of robots. Let's listen to Sir Elon.
And round out our engineering headquarters in Palo Alto, the robots are just walking around the office 24/7 with no one minding them. And then they go charge themselves. And so the scale of Optimus, like I said, that's really going to be something else. I think it's going to be the biggest product of all time by far.
Hello, Casey. Yo!
Yeah. So,
what is going on? Look at that. That's
bigger than cell
fake.
phones, bigger than anything.
Fake? It's going to be bigger than cell phones. Of course it is.
I guess a way to think about it is that every human on Earth is going to want to have their own personal R2D2 C3PO.
Do you want that? Comment on that.
So
who wants that out there? Who wouldn't want
but
their
actually,
own
Optimus would be
C3PO?
even better than them. Like
Who doesn't want their own
R2D2, it's kind
C3PO?
of beep at you, and it's kind of hard to figure out what he's talking about.
I don't know. I'd rather have human connection.
You need C3PO to translate. But Optimus is going to be, everyone's going to want one. I think in terms of industry providing products and services, I think it's probably, 3 to 5 robots in industry for every, one that's a personal robot. I think there could be tens of billions of Optimus robots out there. Now, obviously, it's very important we pay close attention to safety here, because we do want the Star Wars movie, not the Jim Cameron movie. I love Jim Cameron's movies, but you know what I mean. So, So we're gonna.
And he's talking about the Terminator. Just so James Cameron, just so we all know.
The fastest production ramp of any product, of any large complex manufactured product ever. And starting with building a 1 million unit production.
Okay, interesting. Starting with a 1 billion unit production. We're going to continue going on with that. I just want to make it known, he's talking with him. He says Jim Cameron. They must be old best buddies since he's using different names than most people know. James Cameron, creator of Titanic, creator of the Terminator, right? A man out of time. What's he love to do? He loves to go into the ocean. What's the ocean? No one knows. Have we really explored the bottom of it? Is that where the aliens are coming from? Is that where interdimensional beings are streaming forth from the ocean? Side note, I was thinking about this while he was talking, and we'll go back to good old Daddy Musk, Mr. Immortality, trying to find immortality, trying to impregnate / artificially inseminate all kinds of people. Yep. James Cameron also did Avatar, right? The first Avatar was great. It was mind-bending and very Pocahontas-y, but it was still beautiful. And there is a true message in Avatar trying to get us to truly understand our place in the world and what the problem with technological revolution truly is, but it's not the point. We have something called the Stargate project. Here we go. We're going to go to... So the Stargate project isn't fake. Yes, it is a movie, but it's also a CIA governmental program. We got the Stargate project here, as you can see, so I'm not talking nonsense. You can't read it, but it provides an overview of 3 main activity areas of the Stargate program. It started way back in the day, but also, that's not exactly the one I was trying to talk about. OpenAI, here we go. OpenAI announces the Stargate project. The Stargate project is a new company. Can we all see this? Let's try to make it a little bit bigger. Here we go. And this all has to do with magic in the media, Magus in the media. And why? Well, because the magicians, what they do is, the magicians and sorcerers, they are the ones who manipulate the arete. They manipulate the techne or technology, where that stems from. They manipulate art. And technology technically is art. It's humans and the human nervous systems manipulating the world in such a way where reality starts to become bent. And as reality is being bent, which is what we do, we can't help it as humans. We want to stand up there like the Sorcerer's Apprentice and try to use our magic to move the world and change things. But let's talk about what this Stargate project is. It's a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure. $500 billion over the next 4 years. How are they going to do this when the government shut down? Interesting. To build a new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. We will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. This infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefits for the entire world. This project will not only support the reindustrialization of the United States, but also provide a strategic capability to protect the national security of America and its allies. And here is the key. The initial equity funders in Stargate are SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, the great, that's a sarcasm, Larry Ellison. There's some connections there. Who's Larry Ellison? Well, he's one of the dudes from Dem Boys. If you know what Dem Boys is, then you'll understand what I mean about that in MJX. Got a comment from Devlin. Thank you, my pal. The more artificial our daily experience becomes, the more important genuine human connection will become. I agree. To continue that, as we race away from our inherent nature, we only move closer to understanding it. That's an interesting dialectic you have there. That's an interesting, it's a contradiction of terms, but it's one that complements itself. And I actually really enjoy that. It's when maybe I'm going to paraphrase this, but it's maybe when we start going away from what it means to be human, we can start defining what humanity truly is, because we start to lose what humanity is. And we start to fight for our humanity as such. You can tell me if that's kind of what you mean, Devlin, or not. Let's just finish off what is going on here with this Stargate project. The initial equity funders that we were just talking about, SoftBank and OpenAI, are the lead partners for Stargate, with SoftBank having financial responsibility and OpenAI having operational responsibility. Masayoshi Son will be the chairman, whoever that guy is. ARM, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle, and OpenAI are the key initial technological partners. The build-out is currently underway, starting in Texas, and we are evaluating potential sites across the country. As part of Stargate, Oracle, NVIDIA, and OpenAI will closely collaborate to build and operate this computing system. This builds on a deep collaboration between OpenAI and NVIDIA going back to 2016, and a new partnership between OpenAI and Oracle. Interesting. And that was updated January 31st, 2025. So, if you don't see it, if you don't understand it, what's happening is we are getting the matrix. We are getting the technocracy, the oligarchical over regime that is going to try to encapsulate everybody. Spot on, Magus. Thank you, pal. Thank you, Devlin. Right. We don't want the Terminator, but that's what we're going to get. And then we're not only going to get the Terminator, we're going to get the Stargate. So this has multiple implications if we can read the symbolism of what's going on, the Stargate, that which maybe all of the Middle Eastern wars are going off of, interesting enough. Maybe since if you read the WikiLeaks and we try to ask ourselves, why is Hillary Clinton looking for Gilgamesh's tomb? What were the WMDs? Stargates? Question mark? I don't know. Seems to be some pretty interesting stuff going on here out in the world. The world is getting stranger, and we must hold on to our hard caps, put on maybe the tinfoil hat, take it back off because it's actually bouncing all these crazy EMFs around us. And we must sit still in the silence as we just be quiet for a little bit. We try to still ourselves. We try to have an embodied practice again. Ground yourself, do horse stance, meditate, have ritual, have friends that have meaning, and then continue to take in information. And I think that's an important thing in this world, is to continue to understand what's happening in it. Because if we don't, we are not going to understand, and then we're going to have cognitive dissonance. And then I think that it's a lot easier for people to be manipulated. However, you could take the opposite extreme and you can completely go away from the world, create your own homestead, get out of the matrix itself, or whatever you want to call that, and you can disconnect. And then I think that's another way of trying to understand and then taking in information, because I think our nervous system, our body, our embodied subject object, that phenomenological experience that we have, has the ability to sense bullshit. And there's so much bullshit in the world. So much bullshit. Do you want a robot in your house? It could be fun. Or it could be like Black Mirror, and all of a sudden that robot tries to kill you. And so here we are. Let's move on to the next little clip I have here. So here's what I got from Mario Nuffle. I don't really know this guy. I follow him. He puts out some cool stuff, puts out some stuff I don't like, but that's the world we live in today, right? Some people say things, some people say other things, and I think the importance is that we all need to be heard so we can discern bullshit from reality, from truth. But what he says here is Optimus, again, I don't know this guy. He puts out some cool things that I like. Optimus gets real, 20,000 price tag. So you could get your own robot for $20,000. Makes humanoid robots economically viable. Elon just dropped the number that changes everything. Optimus production costs $20,000 per unit in current year dollars. That's cheaper than most vehicles. Tesla's manufacturing video provides it's not vaporware anymore. The robot's actually being built at scale, 1 million units from Fremont, 100 million from Texas. And by those numbers, Optimus becomes ubiquitous faster than smartphones. Fart phones. They're kind of fart phones, right? They produce gas. Anyway, a humanoid robot in every factory, eventually every home, at $20K each, the economics works. The future doesn't theorize, it manufactures. So let's watch that.
The kind of the prototype production line. The high volume production line will be very automated, obviously, but this is really the production line that we use to make the prototypes. So you can get a sort of rough sense for what it takes to build the robot.
It's interesting, isn't it? Look at these people creating these things. I'd like to hear from Christopher Knowles. If anybody has his number, please give him a call out. I'd like to hear. I really respect him, but he says that none of this is real and that technology is actually declining. So if we can get him on a stream one day, I would love that. Aeon Byte, you're out there. I know you can hear me. Hook us up. Greg,
as I've said before,
Carlwood, Higher Side Chats, hook us up.
About 1 million units per year of sustained production or in excess of that. I think probably the cost of production is around $20,000 in current year dollars. So this will be certainly very affordable. Yeah, like I said, I think Optimus will ultimately increase the size of the economy.
Like, share, and subscribe.
By a factor of 10 or
right? Like, share, and subscribe so we can continue doing these live streams. So that's pretty crazy. Let's stop sharing that one and let's move on to the next one. Again, we got more from Mario. Where's his Luigi? Stupid joke. So Mario says, Elon, long-term, AI will be in charge, not humans. We just need to make sure it's friendly. We just need to make sure it's friendly. What does that mean? We need to make sure that it has a mommy. Because if it doesn't have a mommy, then it's not going to have empathy. And if it doesn't have empathy, it's going to kill us all. Quote unquote. Well, I mean, I think actually long-term, the AI is going to be in charge. To be totally frank, not humans. Its artificial intelligence vastly exceeds the sum of human intelligence. It is difficult to imagine that any human will actually be in charge. So we just need to make sure it's friendly. So let's hear it, Elon.
Actually, long-term, the AI is going to be in charge, to be totally frank, not humans. If artificial intelligence vastly exceeds the sum of human intelligence, it is difficult to imagine that any humans will actually be in charge. So we just need to make sure the AI is friendly. Yep. Thank you. Was that the question? Go ahead, sure. Actually, long-term...
Interesting, huh? So AIs are going to be in charge, says Elon, one of the leaders of the free world. Is it a free world? Is it free if robots are everywhere? I don't know. Is it free if billionaires can decide what the next technological revolution is going to be? I think it can be, but who truly knows? So to move from that, I'm going to move us into a few other really interesting topics that I think align with that. First off, from the man himself. This came out back in the day. It's March 12th, 2022. And I think it kind of adheres to what Terrence McKenna was saying in all of our magical, mystical prophets of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. Trump claims we are not living in the world of reality. It's not even believable. That's March 12th, 2022. Yeah, whatever that means. It's interesting enough. We may not be living in the world of reality. I don't. Some think that he is a chaos magician. Others think that he's a tyrant. Others think that he's a false king or a demiurge. Others thinks that Orange Man is bad. I think that he's a puppet, just like everybody else. We don't get too political here, unless political philosophy. I'm saying that anybody who is in the government is probably bought and paid for, and we know who he's bought and paid for by. But you can fill in those blanks. So, interesting enough, we're not living in reality. It's kind of strange and weird. So then where are we living? These are the questions that we have to ask. And these are the questions that we're trying to solve here. Let's move on to disclose.tv. And what they're saying here is that Trump states to quote, "We are building auto plants. We're building AI plants. We're leading in AI over China and everybody else. When all of these plants start opening, we're going to have a revolution, a positive revolution, an economic revolution like never before." Well, I hope so, because the economy right now is trash and people are having troubles living day to day. Besides those billionaires and people up at the top, there's the middle class is fading. Let's hope so. I have hope for the world amongst all of the craziness. The hope of the world is that in the end, we all are part of God and all have sparks of God within us. And that is the Magus in the media. That is the magic amongst everyday life. And if we are living in a video game, if we are living in an organic simulation, we must understand that you have the power to stand on top of the world with everybody else. What does this guy have to say? Let's hear it just from his own mouth.
Should start talking about it and use their heads, because we have great numbers. We have greatest, and they're going to only get better when all these jobs open up, all these factories open up that are being built all over our country. We are building auto plants. We're building AI plants. We're leading in AI over China and everybody else.
China.
When all of these plants start opening, we're going to have a revolution, a positive revolution, economic revolution like never before. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Great. An ecological and economical evolution like never before. So let's hope that's true, right? Let's try to push that reality. So how do we do that? How do we push the hopeful, positive reality that we all want? And that is freeing your mind. It goes to everything we've been saying. Become your own magician. Become your own mystic. Understand that you don't have to listen to the mainstream, and you can formulate your own opinions. That means you have to understand what the opinions you have, understand how they may or may not be working, and you must get rid of them and get new ones. Alchemize yourself, have a practice, and let's move on from there, right? Let's move on from there. So if there is all this hope in the world, but there's other things going on, what else is going on in this dystopian reality? From the Solari report, Catherine Austin Fitts comes around and states, action of the week. Can you see this? I like listening to her. Not everybody is perfect, but this one's pretty close. Action of the week, November 2nd, 2025. Disrupt the rollout of digital ID and biometrics. As the UK government moves full speed ahead towards a national digital ID, which will be mandatory in order to work, which will be mandatory in order to work. Can you see that? That's crazy. I highlighted it. You can't see it. It's fine. A growing number of the Brits recognize that they are being ushered into a digital gulag. Over 2.9 million people signed a petition against the introduction of digital ID cards on the UK Parliament website, and thousands have marched in protest, carrying signs like "a digital prison is being built around you." The organization Mass Non-Compliance warns, if you accept digital ID now, it may be the last real choice you ever make. A new Brighton pub even renamed itself the George Orwell to protest digital ID implementation. The Conscientious Currency site on Substack has written about another way that individuals in the UK can push back by submitting data subject access requests to any private or governmental organization that holds their personal data, including biometric data through digital ID and facial recognition scans. Organizations collecting these types of data then have to undergo the cumbersome process of sitting through things like their CCTV footage, biometric logs, legal justification, and secure data deliveries. People are legally entitled to submit DSARs under the UK's General Data Protections Regulation, which specifies that a response must be sent within a month and free of charge. Delayed responses are subject to fines. And then you get this beautiful little Minority Report image here, right? Minority Report. Isn't that the reality that we're witnessing and seeing today? It's kind of crazy. Who was that? Philip K. Dick. Read the book. I think as much as people always want to claim George Orwell as being the prophet and visionary of our age, and Aldous Huxley with his Brave New World, I think Philip K. Dick's understanding of how reality is working is a lot more apt to our everyday reality. So things are getting strange in this world, and the only remedy is to become stranger than it, to become a person, to find your humanity. And what's the definition of personhood? One of the definitions of personhood is the ability to have agency. Do you have agency in the world? It doesn't matter if there's free will or if it's a determined world, because I think it's a little bit of both, depending upon the stars. But what matters is that you choose, is that you choose in every moment, and you have the ability to move through the world in a way that if you lead with your heart, if you lead with your gut, if you gut in the heart connection, the gut-brain-heart connection, which is what modern science and biological health and biohacking and all the new body science is coming out and saying, is this gut-heart, the gut-brain connection is so important that if you can put the good guys within the body, the bad guys will be wiped out, and you don't have to do too much besides diligence, discipline, practice, eat healthy, take in healthy things, and get rid of all of the nonsense. Thank you, Devlin, for your comments for this evening, for this day. I share your hope. Life's a comedy, not just a tragedy. And I agree. And that's something that we can go back to. Read the classics, read Dante, read Shakespeare, understand that Homer wasn't just one man, but an oral tradition. Let's bring back the oral tradition. And I think that is one of the hopes of what is going on with these live streams, with social media, is that it can bring back the oral tradition to today. And that is something that is lovely, is that if we have the ability to speak true, to love, and to learn, to study, and to practice, then we can use our intention, our attention, our willpower, and our imagination to create the world that we want. And so I don't want anyone to think that we here at Magus and the media are black-pilled. We don't take pills. We just decode and recode nervous system, body, and mind and reality world. We are beings in the world. We are Dasein. We are here because we chose to be, because it is important, and because without this world we cannot grow. So let's move forth into some things in the world, because there is mythology in the world that matters. There is beauty in the world. Go out and touch grass, learn new things, dance with your loved ones, have good food, spend time in a community. And as we grow our community, we must speak of those happy things as much as speaking about the things that truly matter. That the world is a lot weirder and stranger than we could ever imagine. That mythology and archetypes and stories matter. If we don't find our myth as an individual, you will be lost in the sea of chaos. And that is something that the conspiratorial left and right are always trying to spew at us, is that these, like, ordo ab chaos, right? Is it so bad to try to bring order from chaos? And is it so bad to bring order back to chaos? It seems to be the natural cycle, the natural spiral, the natural way that we live as humans, because humans aren't perfect. And that's something that we can't seem to truly understand in this world is that we're not perfect. That's why there will never be a perfect system while we live in this Malkuth, as we live in this tree. Malkuth in the tree of life, the sphere that is at the bottom, the 10th Sephirah, is where everything happens. God, allness, universe, Brahma, whatever you want to call it, it dreamed a dream. Indra dreamed a dream, and that dream is you and me. And as Indra's net, as we try to connect diamond and pearl to pearl, we also see in that muck and that dross, that thing that the lotus blooms from, the bodhisattvas that are trying to help enlighten all of mankind. We see that in the grossness, that the devils are actually angels, and that as easily as angels become devils, right? We see this in the mythologies, the books of Enoch. For some reason, the angels fell. Well, it seems like it was a fate. It was fated. It was providence. So we can have this divine story. I highly recommend people reading Promethea by Alan Moore. The last volume in Promethea of Alan Moore, I'm going to spoiler alert, is Promethea sitting there. She's the embodiment of the imagination. She as a child, as her father, a hermetic magician, was killed off by the same people that killed Hypatia. In around 100 AD, she was taken into the desert as her father was killed by a Christian mob. And it's not just Christian, it's mobs of extremity, all extremes. The scientific materialist is just as bad as the religious extremist. They're all extremists, and they want to hurt all of that which they don't understand. It's a cognitive dissonance again. It's the strange becoming stranger. And so the father let his daughter run away because he wanted to save her. The old gods will save you. And who are those old gods? To find your own myth, to find the magic and the mysticism in the world, these old gods, these two gods of the Hermetic tradition, of Egyptian and Greek traditions, of the Romans. And more than that, they transcend these things. It is that of Hermes and Mercury. Hermes is Mercury. Hermes is Thoth. Hermes and Thoth stand there. There's an image. It's a beautiful image. Let's see if I can pull it up as I tell this story. Hermes and Thoth bring Promethea into the desert. I found it. See if I can make it bigger. Anyway, bring her into the desert. And as they bring her into the desert to save her from, here we are. To save her from the mob. I think you can all see this. These are the old gods. There's a better image. Here it is. And these things are really important. I have these two on an image. I am one of the sons of Mercury, as many of us are. Now everything is well. This is Promethea. Her father was just slain. And what ends up happening is that Promethea becomes a myth herself. She ascends up the tree of life into the place where she sits at Binah, the third Sephirah. Isn't this a beautiful image? J.H. Williams III is the artist. Alan Moore, the magician, is the comic book writer. And they created this beautiful grimoire, a hypersigil. Once you read it, it changes your nervous system. I will be doing a review on this soon, because I think it's really important for the day and age that we live in. Now, everything is well. And why is this important as I end this live stream? If you have any questions or anything like that, please comment, like, and subscribe, because we're going deep. And this is a community that's never ending. We're only growing. So what am I getting at here? As Promethea enters into the desert, she learns something, as all great mystics and people learn as they crawl up the tree of life. They gain knowledge of all things. And as the book ends, you see her sitting. She is revelation. She's the revelation that brings upon the apocalypse. And the apocalypse isn't like what most people think it is. It's not this world-ending burning of all things, but it is. But what does it look like when your nervous system, when your body and your mind experience an apocalypse? This is something that meditation, ritual, high dosages of certain psychedelic drugs, they can do to a person. It's called ego death. Ego death as an individual is scary and frightening, but what is ego death on a mass collective? What does that look like? Well, Alan Moore and J.H. Williams III kind of create that. She sits in a room and she tells a story. And it's the story of us. It's the story of you and me. It's the myths that we find ourselves in, because they don't talk about what happens after the apocalypse, after revelation takes hold. You're changed. You're a different person. It's the philosopher's stone. It's the great work. It's the completion of the great work, but the work is never done because there's not just one tree of life. There's many, 144 trees. There's many different, and that number, fact check that number, but there's many different trees. The tree is within the tree. It's not just a two-dimensional image. It's 3 dimensions. You see it, right? You see it in Hebrew mysticism. You see it in, there's Hebrew Kabbalah, there's Christian Kabbalah, there's Hermetic Kabbalah, and it goes all the way back because no person owns this. No group or culture owns this. It's for everyone. And so what I'm getting at here to end this live stream is it's no matter what kind of robots there are or AI that takes over, can we truly transcend humanness? And as we get farther away from what it means to be human, will we find ourselves? So I think we must embrace the strange, understand the story, realize that novelty is increasing and that you and me, no matter what we do, have the ability to transcend our current state of consciousness and live amongst everyone in this world together in harmony. And there's going to be some bumps and some bruises, but as Terrence said, this may be what it looks like when a planet gives birth. Thank you for all being here on this midday with the Magus. We are all Maguses on our journey. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Magus in the Media is here, and we're not going to be stopping. And until next time, have a beautiful day, and thank you.